Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy.
I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies. People start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Fracking? She's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police? She's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly. She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
Former President Trump and Vice President Harris sparring on top issues, including the economy, abortion, foreign policy, and, of course, the southern border at last night's presidential debate. Joining me now is Chief Pollster of the Trafalgar Group and co-host of Polling Plus, Robert Cahaly. Robert, good morning. I do want to get your instant reaction to the debate. And do you think that the debate will move the needle in this election?
Well, the first reaction is it wasn't the best night for Trump. He got triggered a little bit by what she was talking, especially with the rallies. He's very defensive about his rallies. But what matters is we did an Insta poll during the course of the debate, and we saw no difference. There are a significant amount of people who thought that Trump didn't do well who were still for Trump. So the race was still tied at the end with the survey we did of battleground states. So the first answer is it wasn't the best night, but we don't see a huge effect immediately.
Yeah, Britt mentioned that last night on Fox News Channel. He said it was not a good night for Donald Trump. It was a good night for her. She was obviously prepared and was able to needle him and you know that he took the bait. At the same time, as you're saying, does that really change voter perspectives? It is about the swing state. It is about the swing voters. I want to get your take on that. And also, you know, there were some other kind of moments, if you will. One was that when it came down to health care, one of the things that's gone viral from him is that he said, well, I have a concept of what health care would be. She says, I'm going to expand the Affordable Care Act. She laid out her plans. He said, I have concepts. Did that moment resonate with those that you surveyed?
It wasn't something that a lot of them pointed out. But what did happen, that probably is the longest lasting effect, is you got to realize there's a lot of people who didn't watch the conventions, who don't keep up with the news cycle, who were tuned in last night. And so what they heard from Trump are a lot of things about Kamala Harris they haven't heard before. And so if the campaign and the outside groups will follow up those things with examples of her own words saying the things that Trump accused her of saying in the past and demonstrating the flip-flop, then the questions he created last night, especially in those swing states where these issues matter, like fracking, I think the net effect down the road of this thing could be very positive. Because, again, nobody's mentioned a lot of the things they heard about Kamala Harris. This is the first time they heard any of it.
That's true, right? And maybe he missed a few opportunities to fact check her, and the moderators did not do that. Let's go through this latest wave of national and swing state polling. All of these were conducted before last night's debate, just before. So let's go through these. I've got Lee Carter on set with me. So the latest NPR PBS News Marist poll shows another essential deadlock. Vice President Harris leads by 1.49% to Trump's 48%. The same goes for the latest New York Times Siena College poll. Essentially, that's deadlocked. This time it shows Trump up by 1.48% to Harris's 47%. And then let's look at the battleground states where it really matters. A new Quinnipiac poll shows Georgia tilting towards Trump. He leads 49% to Harris's 46%. If there's a two-way matchup, North Carolina, Harris leads 50% to Trump's 47%. Both states technically too close to call. So, you know, these all fall within the margin of error, Robert, to be very clear. And all of this done just ahead of the debate last night.
And that's the same results we've gotten in every one of the swing states, whether it was me doing them for Trafalgar or Matt Towery doing them for Inside Advantage.
Right.
We've been kind of splitting the states up. We saw the same thing. It's within 1 point either direction in almost every state. So these things are very, very tight. And we do know that polls traditionally underrepresent Trump. There'll be a new wave of these polls that'll come out in the next week, post-debate polls, seeing what the effect of it is. And that's what really matters, is what resonated with those swing voters and what mattered. Like I said, one of the most significant things we saw is people who did not think Trump won the debate, who are still for Trump.
They're still going to vote for him. I've got Lee Carter, pollster
Absolutely.
Lee Carter, on set. Lee.
So in our focus group last night, really no one changed their mind. We had a number of undecided voters. Not one of them heard anything that changed their mind or answered the questions that they really had. One about Trump's temperament, which one was going to show up. I think Trump failed on that. Two was Kamala Harris, what she's going to do in the economy. She failed on that. So really no movement. But my question really is, when you're looking at this, do you see more undecided voters right now than you would expect to at this moment? Because a lot of people say, how can anybody be undecided? But we had a number of them in studio last night, and I would just love to hear your perspective on how many people are still out there trying to figure out who they're going to vote for.
Well, first of all, everything you're saying makes sense of what you saw in your focus group. What we find is it depends on how you ask the question. If you give them an undecided option, make it open-ended, like, who are you for? We do see a higher undecided. But if you say, if the election were held tomorrow and you had to decide, we see an undecided in most swing states that drops below 5.
Robert Cahaly, great to have you on this morning. Thank you for the research and for taking the time. And it's a lot of caffeine for a lot of you and your colleagues this morning. We appreciate your time, Robert.
Absolutely.
A lot of
Thank you.
A lot of caffeine on this set as well.